RadioShack was once the heartbeat of the American hobbyist, a neighborhood sanctuary where you could buy a soldering iron, a transistor, or a customized stereo system. At its peak, almost every American lived within 5 miles of a RadioShack store. It was the original tech playground, the precursor to modern giants like Apple and Best Buy. But today, the name is synonymous with obsolescence. The company didn't just fail, it systematically dismantled its own relevance while sitting on a goldmine of consumer trust. In the late 1970s, RadioShack was the undisputed king of personal computing. Before IBM, before Microsoft, there was the TRS-80. It was the computer that put programming into the hands of millions. But management looked at their own innovation and felt afraid. They were terrified that computers would cannibalize their parts business. So, instead of doubling down on the digital future they helped invent, they retreated into the comfort of selling generic batteries and cables. It was a fatal strategic pivot. While the world was shifting toward the internet and mobile ecosystems, RadioShack decided that the most profitable path was to fill their shelves with low-margin, private label junk. The margins on a box of D-cell batteries were reliable, but they couldn't sustain a multi-billion-dollar retail infrastructure. By the early 2000s, the neighborhood helper had become the annoying upsell store. Every purchase required a zip code, a phone number, and a high-pressure sales pitch for extended warranties. The customer experience became a chore. They weren't solving problems anymore, they were collecting data while their product relevance evaporated. Then came the era of the smartphone. Apple launched the iPhone in 2007. RadioShack actually had a massive head start in the mobile space, acting as a third-party retailer for carriers like Verizon and Sprint. They could have become the premier destination for the mobile revolution. Instead, they let their stores fall into disrepair. The lighting was dim, the inventory was cluttered, and the staff were undertrained. They tried to rebrand to the Shack, an attempt at coolness that felt like a middle-aged parent wearing a backwards cap. It wasn't just a marketing failure, it was a psychological detachment from their core demographic. Their target audience had moved on to online marketplaces and big-box electronics retailers that actually stocked the latest hardware. RadioShack was stuck selling remote-controlled cars and universal remotes to a generation that had already moved to cloud streaming and smart home technology. By the time they reached their final bankruptcy in 2015, they had thousands of stores that were essentially glorified storage units for unsold cables. The descent was quiet, but the math was brutal. They were burning cash to keep the lights on in locations that hadn't seen foot traffic in years. They had become a retail zombie. A giant corporation that had forgotten why it existed in the first place. The tragedy of RadioShack isn't that they were beaten by competition, it's that they surrendered the battlefield without a fight. They held the keys to the digital age and traded them for the convenience of selling charging cables. If you think your favorite brand today is too big to fail, consider this: RadioShack was the standard, until it became the punchline. Would you have kept the TRS-80 vision alive, or was the pivot to batteries the only way to squeeze out a few more years of profit? Be honest in the comments, do you still have a junk drawer filled with their branded cables, or did you abandon ship years ago? If this collapse story left you wanting more, you have to watch our deep dive into the internal chaos that destroyed the iconic retailer Sears.